welcome to this explainer. If you've ever felt like your brain processes social situations just differently than other people, like you're walking around with this built-in radar system that nobody else seems to have, well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're unpacking a concept known as the hypervigilant heart. We're going to explore how emotional intelligence isn't always just about warm, fuzzy connection. Sometimes it's actually a brilliantly designed tool for pure survival. Let's get right into it.
So, search your own memory for a second here. Have you ever known, and I mean known with absolutely undeniable certainty, that someone was lying to you the literal second they opened their mouth? And this is even without any proof. You hadn't checked their phone, you didn't catch them in a contradiction, but your gut was just screaming that something was fundamentally off. You were basically acting as a human lie detector. It feels kind of supernatural, doesn't it? Almost like you have some secret mind-reading ability. But what is actually happening in your brain during that visceral moment?
Well, spoiler alert, it isn't magic. It's something called guarded empathy. When you get that instant, overwhelming gut feeling, you aren't tapping into the supernatural. Your brain is actually rapidly calculating this massive amount of invisible data in real time. Guarded empathy is the actual, scientific reality behind that intuition. It's a highly specialized, fiercely protective variation of emotional intelligence, and your brain built it for a very, very specific purpose.
To really grasp this, we need to separate what we usually think of as empathy from what guarded empathy actually is. Standard empathy is, what most people mean when they use the word. It's that ability to feel what others feel so you can build a connection. Like if someone is sad, you feel sad with them. But guarded empathy, it's fundamentally different. It is not about shared emotional resonance at all. Instead, it's the intense, hyper-focused reading of microshifts in a person's mood or behavior purely for survival. It's an alert system. Think of it like this. It's the difference between feeling the cozy warmth of a fire and actively scanning a room for smoke.
Okay, so where does this incredibly specific, highly tuned radar system actually come from? Because nobody is simply born with a brain that's constantly scanning for danger in a slight vocal tone or a shifted posture. This is entirely a learned behavior. It's an adaptation. To understand guarded empathy, we really have to look at the environment that forced its creation in the first place, the origins of the hypervigilant heart. This incredibly high level of emotional awareness is deeply linked to an experience called parentification, which usually happens when you grow up in a high-pressure environment. Parentification is what happens when a child is forced to take on the emotional or even practical responsibilities of an adult. In an environment where the adults around you are unpredictable or emotionally chaotic, the child essentially has to step up to manage the atmosphere. If you grew up in that kind of pressure cooker, your safety completely depended on your ability to predict moods. You had to know, is it safe to speak right now? Safe to play? Or is a storm coming? Your brain adapted by becoming acutely, relentlessly aware.
And that brings us to a really crucial realization. You have a brain that has been explicitly trained to read micro shifts in mood for survival. If you ever find yourself just completely exhausted by constantly overanalyzing every single social interaction, please understand that this is not a flaw. Actually, scratch that. It's a highly successful adaptation. Your brain trained itself to detect these totally imperceptible shifts in tone, body language, or expression, simply because recognizing those shifts once kept you safe. It was literally a survival mechanism. But here is where we make a fascinating pivot. The exact same mechanism that helped you survive in the past has gifted you with a really profound cognitive ability today, which is multi-dimensional thinking. Your brain doesn't just see what is right in front of it. It's playing complex social chess. Because of your intense training in those high-pressure environments, your mind can now process social interactions on multiple layers, all at the same time. You aren't just hearing words. You're analyzing the context, the subtext, the history, and the future trajectories, all in a fraction of a second. This multidimensional supercomputer in your head basically operates through a rapid-fire three-step process. Step 1 is detect. You immediately notice the micro shifts in mood. That slight tightening of a jaw or the totally subtle change in vocal pitch that literally everyone else in the room missed. Step 2 is anticipate. Your brain instantly runs a simulation to predict the social outcome. Like, if this mood continues, what happens next? Where exactly is this conversation going? And step 3 is enforce. Once your brain anticipates that outcome, it immediately formulates a plan to protect your mental and emotional boundaries. It might feel like pure instinct, but it is a highly sophisticated calculation. The outcomes of this multidimensional thinking are actually huge. First, it means you anticipate social outcomes, so you are very rarely caught off guard. Second, you manage high-pressure dynamics effortlessly, mostly because, well, you've been navigating tense rooms your entire life. And finally, you protect your personal boundaries. The whole shebang. All of this hypervigilance and guarded empathy serves one ultimate goal: making sure you are never again at the mercy of unpredictable environments. Your emotional intelligence is quite literally your shield. Which brings us to one final really important thought to leave you with. Your brain learned to read the room to survive your past, but how will you use it to protect your future? You've carried this hypervigilant heart through the hardest parts of your life as a form of armor, but now it can transition from a reactive survival reflex into a proactive, empowering tool. You already know you can read the room. The real question is, how will you harness that multidimensional thinking to build safe, healthy spaces for yourself moving forward? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we will catch you next time.